May is coming. You already know what May looks like. The list of things you are going to do differently. The version of the year that exists in your head on December 31st that has never quite matched the version that existed in your life on December 31st of the following year. You do not have a goal problem. You have never had a goal problem. The goals are clear. They have been clear for years. What has been unclear, what has dissolved every May list before this one, is a single skill that sits underneath every goal you have ever set and determines whether any of them actually happens. Not productivity, not discipline, not habits. One skill, the one that Bruce Banner spent years getting wrong before he got it right. And getting it wrong cost him everything that mattered, repeatedly, until he understood what he was actually trying to build. The skill is the management of the gap between what you feel like doing and what you decided to do. Everything else you want for 2026 lives inside that gap. Here is what it actually is, and why you have been trying to build it with the wrong tools every May for the last several years. The skill is not willpower. Willpower is a resource. It depletes. It is highest in the morning and lowest at night. It is diminished by decision fatigue, by stress, by poor sleep, by the accumulated weight of a day that has asked too much of it already. Building your entire year on willpower is building your entire year on a resource that runs out by 3 p.m. and is almost gone by the time the evening decisions arrive. The skill is the construction of a decision you already made, not the motivation to do the thing. The architecture of having already decided, specifically, concretely, in advance, so that when the moment arrives and the feeling is absent and the willpower is depleted, there is no decision to make. There is only the execution of something already settled. Banner's problem was never intelligence or capability. It was that he kept trying to manage the Hulk in real time, in the moment, under pressure, when everything was already activated. That approach failed consistently because the moment of activation is the worst possible time to make a managing decision. What finally worked was what he built in advance. The architecture of the response constructed when everything was calm that made the real-time decision unnecessary. Your year works the same way. Every goal that dissolved did so at the moment of decision, the moment you felt resistance and had to choose. Learn to make that choice before the moment arrives and the moment stops having power over the outcome. The practical version of this skill looks like this. Before the week begins, you write down not what you want to achieve, but exactly when and where each commitment will happen. Not exercise more, move for 40 minutes at 7 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday in this specific room before the phone is checked. Not read more, 20 pages beginning at 9:30 p.m. in this chair after this specific trigger. The specificity is not aesthetic, it is functional. The brain does not respond to intentions, it responds to cues. A vague intention leaves the decision open at every moment the cue could fire. A specific plan closes the decision before the moment arrives and converts intention into automatic response. The resistance still comes. The feeling of not wanting to still comes, but there is no decision point for the resistance to occupy. The decision was already made. Stay with this. What I am about to describe is why this specific skill, not motivation, not discipline, not better habits, is the only variable that determines whether your 2026 looks different from your 2025. And it will take 90 seconds to understand and change the rest of the year. Every May list fails at the same structural point, the evening of a hard day when the commitment is due and the willpower is gone and the feeling says, not tonight, and there is a decision to make. The man who built the architecture in advance does not have a decision to make at that moment. The man who relied on motivation does. That single structural difference, whether the decision exists in the moment or was already resolved before the moment arrived, is responsible for more of the gap between your goals and your outcomes than any other variable. Not your effort, not your intelligence, not your discipline. Whether the decision was pre-made or live, Banner understood this. The architecture he built in advance was what held when everything else was activated. Build yours before May 1st, and May will be a different experience than every previous one. A man who has built the architecture for his commitments in advance for one full year does not look like a man of extraordinary willpower from the outside. He looks like a man of unremarkable consistency. He does the thing on the hard days at approximately the same rate he does it on the easy ones. Not because the hard days don't cost him, but because the cost is paid at the architectural stage rather than at the execution stage. At the end of that year, the compound effect of unremarkable consistency is not unremarkable. It is the only form of progress that actually accumulates across 12 months without collapsing in February. every year you have watched your May list dissolve was a year the architecture wasn't built before the motivation ran out. 1 year of building the architecture first is enough to show you what the previous years were missing, and enough to make going back to the old approach genuinely unthinkable. Banner did not become less dangerous by becoming more controlled in the moment. He became less dangerous by building what held before the moment arrived. The Hulk didn't disappear. The architecture around it changed. Your resistance to your commitments will not disappear in 2026. The architecture you build before May is what determines whether the resistance wins or whether the decision you already made does. You came into this expecting to be told which skill to learn. A technical skill, a marketable skill, something you could put on a CV or a profile or point at as a credential in 12 months. The skill underneath every skill you want to acquire in 2026 is the ability to execute on a prior decision under conditions that do not support execution. That skill is not taught anywhere. It is not on a curriculum. It does not produce a certificate. It produces results, specifically the results that every previous year's list described and did not deliver. You do not need a new goal for 2026. You need the architecture that allows you to reach the ones you already have. That architecture is built in the next 2 weeks before May arrives, or May arrives without it, and the pattern repeats tonight, not May 1st. Tonight. Take the single most important commitment you want to hold in 2026, the one that, if it happened consistently across the full year, would make the year genuinely different from every previous one. Write it down in one sentence. Then answer 3 questions about it. When exactly will it happen? Specific day, specific time. Where exactly will it happen? Specific location. No ambiguity. What is the trigger that precedes it? The thing that happens immediately before. That will become the cue that fires the behavior automatically over time. That is the architecture. 3 answers, written down. Decided before May arrives so that May is execution rather than decision. Banner built the containment before the activation. You build the architecture before the year begins. Same principle. Different stakes, except to you, your year is the only stakes that matter. May does not fail because you lack motivation. It fails because you arrive at it with goals and no architecture. Build the architecture tonight, and 2026 is already different before it starts. 2 weeks, 3 questions. 1 commitment written down with full specificity. That is the entire preparation. Every year, you have described a different version of your life and watched it dissolve in February. This is the year you build the structure that holds it in place. It starts tonight, not May 1st. May 1st is already too late for the architecture. It is only the right time for the execution. 1 question. What is the single most important commitment for 2026? And have you written down exactly when, where, and what triggers it? Drop the commitment in the comments in 1 sentence, not the goal, the specific daily behavior. That sentence is the architecture beginning. If this is the video that makes 2026 different from every year before it, subscribe. No May motivation required.